Hey, what is going on guys? My name is Gamertag and I'm back for your daily Fortnite video. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the absolute best settings to use for controller Fortnite. Whether you play on PS4, Xbox One, or simply use a controller on PC, we're going to be going over everything from keybinds to sensitivity settings, dead zones, and also some general miscellaneous settings I recommend to have on or off. Hopefully after watching today's video and applying all the tips and tricks that I give you, you'll be able to perform a lot better in Fortnite. So without wasting any time, let's go ahead and hop right into this. So starting with the general sensitivities, my build mode and edit mode sensitivity multipliers are both set to a 1.5, and I know this is a lot lower than majority of your guys's, and you're probably kind of confused as of how I keep them so low but yet able to build and edit pretty fast, and this will make a lot more sense once we hop into the dead zones. Next is going to be the look sensitivities. My look horizontal speed is set to a 61%, and my look vertical speed is set to a 74%. I have no boost on any of my sensitivities throughout the entire video. I do not like them, I'm not used to them, so I definitely am not a fan of those, so don't worry about those throughout the entire video. But again, my look horizontal is 61, my look vertical is 74. Next is going to be the aim down sight sensitivity, otherwise known as ADS. My ADS look horizontal speed is set to a 19%, and my ADS look vertical speed is set to a 23%. Once again, no boost on any of these. Obviously, aim down sight sensitivity refers to, well, when you're aim down sights with an item in Fortnite. This will affect basically our accuracy a ton, so we really want to make sure we get this one down pat opposed to every other sensitivity setting. Next is now going to be the advanced sensitivity settings. My look dampening time is at a 0.00 seconds. I've never really raised it from this, so I'm not entirely sure too much of what this affects. I just prefer to keep it all the way lowered, so this way my movement is a lot more quicker and snappier when obviously I look around. Next is the look input curve. I know this one's a very controversial setting. A lot of people say to use linear, however a lot of people go against that and say to use exponential. Well, personally I've tried both linear and exponential. My personal opinion is that exponential suits basically the average Fortnite player way better. Now if you're a pro player like literally the level of Faze Sway, then you could probably get away with using linear, but the default setting that Fortnite's always used since literally the day it's been released is exponential. So whenever you go and try to make the switch to linear, it is so unnatural and weird feeling, and I promise you guys it won't give you an advantage at all in the game. It's certainly not worth making the switch over to. Obviously, aim assist strength should be at 100% every single time. There's no reason it should be any lower. And that's the sensitivity settings. Next, we're gonna hop into the dead zones, personally because I feel like the dead zone and sensitivity settings kind of go hand in hand. My move stick dead zone is set to a 20%, which of course is the default. There's really no reason to mess with this setting. However, the look stick dead zone is the one that realistically controls everything. This refers to your right analog stick, and obviously the right analog stick is used to edit, build, aim, accuracy. It's literally used for everything important in Fortnite. So I basically have lowered my look stick dead zone from a 20% to a 10%. Basically, this is what allows me to still move and look around fast, despite the fact that I have low sensitivity settings. So it just allows me to have a lot more control over everything in Fortnite that I find to be very important. I strongly recommend you guys use a 10% look stick dead zone. I definitely would not go any higher or any lower. I personally think this is the sweet spot, so definitely try this out. The next is actually going to be the keybinds. I basically play on a custom builder pro, which I recommend everybody use. Now the keybind settings are pretty unique, however they're not too different at all. So basically the only changes I have made is my Y button, which of course is triangle for PlayStation 4 controllers, is binded to edit. And then my left analog stick clicked in is binded to toggle pickaxe. Now I do play with a claw grip, essentially meaning I use my index fingers for my A, B, Y, and X buttons. I know a lot of people don't play like this, but if you would like to make the switch over, a lot of pro controller players actually use this grip. You guys can check the video out on my channel where I share with you guys an in-depth guide of actually how to play on claw grip. I promise you guys it is worth making the switch over. So again, my Y button is set to edit, my left analog stick is set to toggle pickaxe, and then lastly my keybinds is in my edit controls. Basically when I confirm my edits, I use left trigger or L2. So these are pretty simple. Whenever I go to make an edit on the wall, I simply tap Y, I use right trigger to select the tiles, and then simply confirm it with left trigger. So my edits are pretty much as fast as they possibly can get in terms of being on console with a pretty high ping. So I strongly recommend you guys try these settings out. They actually aren't exclusive to just claw grip, so even if you use a default grip, these settings are still usable, and I strongly recommend you guys give it a try. Next is going to be the miscellaneous settings. Now these are settings that I recommend you guys have on or off, as I feel like they will allow you guys to perform a lot better in Fortnite. Starting with brightness. Now brightness, a lot of people always are kind of surprised when I even talk about this setting, because it's such like an outcast. Like no one even discusses or looks at brightness. Well, brightness setting, I recommend you actually turn it from a 100% up to a 120%. Obviously the adjustment isn't too much, but in chapter 2 basically Fortnite released a lot of new lighting effects. So in dark areas like the attic of a house, it's actually hard to spot out a player hiding in the corner. We've all had scenarios where someone's actually ended up eliminating us simply due to the fact we didn't even realize they were there because they kind of blended in with the scene and setting. So by raising our brightness to a 120%, it just gives us a better visual of everything, and basically those scenarios will not happen as often. And a lot of pro players also raised their brightness, and a lot of people are confused as to why. Well, that's the main reason. Next is the motion blur. This is actually a kind of new setting on console itself. I recommend you guys turn motion blur on. It just makes everything feel a lot more smoother and have a fluent motion. It's definitely not necessary by any means. You guys can definitely have it off if you'd like. But I personally like the look of it and feel like it actually makes the game a lot more consistent in terms of flow. Now we're going to hop into the more specific settings, which is on the game screen. So we're going to start with sprint by default. I strongly recommend everybody turn sprint by default on. Reason being is because it actually allows us to use the keybinds that I went over. If you were not to have sprint by default on, of course you would have to click the left analog stick in anytime you wanted to sprint. And of course that means we will not be able to use the keybinds I share with you guys. And also, sprint by default is extremely useful, and a lot of pro players, basically every pro player that plays Fortnite uses this setting, believe it or not. So I strongly recommend you guys make the switch over. I promise you it will help a lot. Next is tap to search or interact. This is also a setting I recommend you guys turn on. Essentially it won't affect too much, but whenever you open a chest, ammo box, supply crate, or revive a teammate, you no longer have to hold X or square throughout the entire cycle. You can now simply just tap it and it will do the animation. So again, this one isn't as crucial or affects too much, but it is a little bit more user friendly. The next is going to be auto open doors. This one is very subjective on the player itself. If you're a player that is constantly making edits in Fortnite, then this setting should be turned on, mainly because a lot of times whenever you try to make a 3-corner edit, you will accidentally edit a door. Instead of having to reset the edit manually or get out of your edit menu, basically you can actually just run through the door with this setting on. So I recommend you have this setting on again if you're constantly making edits in Fortnite. However, if you aren't making edits throughout the entire game, then leave this setting off as it won't affect too much at all. The next is going to be confirm edit on release. This is like the most controversial setting in Fortnite. Now this one is also another subjective setting. If you're a player that is probably like a very beginner in regards of editing, like you're not that good and you're still trying to learn it, then definitely turn the setting on. It will make editing a lot more easier, especially as you're trying to get the basics and learn the ropes of it. Basically what this does is you no longer have to press a confirm button when you make an edit. You simply edit, select the tiles, and the game will automatically confirm it for you. However, if you're a player that's average or maybe slightly above average, then this setting realistically won't help you all that much. The main reason is because once you try to obviously increase your speed of editing, well, this setting doesn't help you all that much, and when you go to turn it off, it's definitely not going to be what you're used to, and you're basically going to have to learn editing all over again. So again, if you're a very beginner player in terms of editing in Fortnite, try the setting out just for the time being when you're learning. However, if you're anything above a beginner in terms of editing, then this setting won't help you all that much. And then next is going to be auto sort consumables to the right. This is also another subjective setting. Now, if you're a player that's always putting your mini shields, your big shields, bandages, and medkits all the way to the 5th slot of your inventory, then obviously use this setting. It will make it a lot easier. However, if you don't organize your inventory like that, I personally do not do that, then of course leave this setting off as it won't help you at all. And then lastly of today's video is actually going to be in the replays. You guys probably are kind of curious why we're talking about replays. Well, if you're on console, this is realistically something that you really want to do. You want to turn off all of the replays. So turn off record replays, turn off record large team replays, and turn off record creative mode replays. The reason being is because for whatever reason, after chapter 2, with these settings on, basically the game has all these micro stutters and it is not as smooth. You're going to be playing at like 30 FPS for whatever reason. So by turning these off, again, I'm not entirely sure the reason behind it. It actually allows you guys to have consistent 60 FPS and make the game as smooth as it possibly can be on console. So definitely do that. This is kind of like a big PSA. I promise you guys it will help your overall frames per second and flow on Fortnite a lot on console. So this is pretty much going to be it for today's video, guys. We covered everything from keybinds to sensitivity settings, dead zones, and also some general miscellaneous settings I recommend you have on or off that will allow you guys to play at a much higher performance in Fortnite. Let me know what you guys think about these settings down below. Comment some things that you would change, or maybe your own personal settings that you like. Now, if you made it this far in today's video, chances are you're a pretty loyal or active viewer of mine, and I strongly would like to show my appreciation to you guys. So if you made it this far, comment down below saying best Fortnite settings. That's all you have to say. So if you leave the comment best Fortnite settings, I will heart each and every single comment. That's your way of showing you made it this far in the video and you're an active and loyal viewer of mine. And by me hearting it, that's my way of showing that I really do appreciate your guys' support. Now, if you guys enjoyed today's video or found it helpful, a like would be beyond appreciated. And of course, on the contrary, if you genuinely disliked today's video, then by all means feel free to leave a dislike as well. And if you guys are new around here and would like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future, feel free to subscribe as well as turning on those post notifications. Nonetheless, my name is Aydan Gamertag. Thank you all for watching today's video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Adios.